Good morning. It's an honor to be here today and to represent the future with you. I appreciate your future leaders, future thinkers. You're shaping the way education narrates how to grow, cook, and understand food, which is not just about people needing to be shown it at university level or even at work. These are the fundamental things that people need in their lives. So, yes, my name is Arthur Dawson. Thank you, Nana. I've been cooking for nearly 40 years. My journey began in 1987 when I walked into the kitchens at the Roux Brothers in London for a 3-year apprenticeship that shaped everything that I believe about food. I was young, I was painfully green, and I was desperate to learn, and I learned fast. Because in those kitchens, discipline wasn't a choice, it was a lifeline. I carried that discipline forward as I trained with Roly Lee, Rose Gray, Ruth Rogers, Pierre Kaufman. I was a head chef at Jamie Oliver's 15. I have worked all over the world, and I am and have opened restaurants in London that were early experiments in sustainability, because I was absorbing food cultures from Scandinavia to the US, a lot from Italy, a lot from France, many years in Spain. A planetary experience of food has really looked under the bonnet of what food systems need to be, because food the world over is absolutely necessary for nutrition, health, wellness, and planetary wellness. So my restaurants, Acorn House and Waterhouse, became early experiments in sustainability with rooftop gardens, wormeries, low energy fridges, and I proved that restaurants could make money and protect the planet. I then opened the People Supermarket. It was a living, breathing example of how communities could reconnect to farmers with good produce and each other. The fact that people coming together as a community around food was absolutely essential. But at that moment, I realized something very profound. Food could change the world, not through trends, not through branding, but through deep systemic change. And that's what I've been fighting for ever since. The past 20 years, I've been working tirelessly to look at food systems and improve them. Today, I work as the Sky Group culinary lead. So from a global perspective, I look at food systems and deliver sustainable nutrition. I'm executive chef in London at the Cow Street Affair, which is a lovely pop-up restaurant. You must come to London. When you come to see me in London, come to the Cow Street Affair. And I'm also the advocacy chef for the World Food Programme and the United Nations, looking at school feeding programs as well to understand the importance of nutrition for children across the planet. In everything that I do and every message that I'm creating, sustainable nutrition is my deepest narrative. Sustainable nutrition is the future. It's not just for the planet, but it's also for business, for culture, for health, and humanity. Look, in the end, after 40 years in the kitchens, I've learned one thing. There is freedom in discipline, and especially when it comes to our food systems. And sustainable nutrition is good for business. You know, the idea that chefs and food can actually make money at the same time as saving the planet is a major, major factor. We have to understand this. So I created something called the Chef's Manifesto. The core statement from the Chef's Manifesto is very, very simple. The future of the world depends on good food. Good food nourishes bodies and builds communities. Good food restores ecosystems. Good food powers economies. And good food brings people together. And companies that understand this are not doing the right thing. They are building the future of their business. When a company invests in sustainable nutrition, better sourcing, healthier menus, transparent supply chains, they don't just reduce carbon footprints. They convert their food offer into a brand experience, a message of responsibility that today's consumers want. This generation is the most sustainable generation in history. Businesses are scrambling to keep up with the youth and the expectation of what people now need from their consumption habits. So by redesigning food experiences, which is what I do, whether in corporate canteens, restaurants, in retail or business, it builds loyalty. Sustainable nutrition builds loyalty. It shapes culture. It innovates. It attracts talent. If you've got this narrative inside your business or the concept, not just about food, it can be fabric, it can be so many other factors, but I'm coming from a food lens. Reducing the environmental impact of your company and your planet is essential. We need to increase our resilience. So in that, there is innovation. Food becomes a laboratory where sustainability can be tested, improved, and shared. Although I must say that sustainability is a word that seems to go on and on and on and on and on. 25 years later, since I've been using the word, I've had to turn away from it a little bit and talk about resilience, because we have to be building resilience into our food systems that flex and adapt to the shocks that are coming. So the next generation, the generation that you're teaching to, and even if there are some young people on the call here, is the next generation will control the creativity and the consciousness that coexist together on the planet. So if we all go in the same direction together, then we can have positive results. So the biggest future trend that can be summed up in 4 words is healthy soil, healthy food, healthy people, healthy planet. So sustainable nutrition starts in the ground, not on the plate. We need better soils and better seeds. We need heritage variety seeds. We need drought resistant plants, and we need crops that can thrive as temperatures rise. And we can talk about climate change, but I have to make it clear that climate change fluctuates. But what we can't deny is that the weather patterns are changing. It's the weather patterns that we need to understand. It's getting wetter, it's getting drier, it's getting hotter, it's becoming more temperamental. And so our plants and our food systems need to be resilient to those shocks. Food systems that are designed for cities where most of the world's consumption happens, we need to be looking at the socio-economic lines of affordability and accessibility, where food inside cities isn't mass-produced, ultra-processed. It is still fresh, healthy, and wholesome. We do need to be looking at more plant-based proteins. I'm not an anti-meat. I'm just talking about better meat in smaller quantities and far more diversity from our plants. And we have to celebrate our global food cultures and indigenous knowledge. It was lovely to see the restaurant there. You're talking about, circular waste and the learnings from Africa. We have cultures all over the world that talk about reducing food waste. It just so happens that in the West, the Western world, we tend to throw away far too much food. We need to be looking at biodiversity, not just as a scientific term, but we need to understand that biodiversity delivers flavor, resilience, and identity. So through all of my work, here's what I've learned. We need a radical transformation in our food systems. And that transformation has to be nature positive, nutrition focused, equitable, and resilient. So we need to be rebuilding soil and ecological health. A third of the world's soil is already degraded. Without soil, we're not here. So we've already degraded a third of the soil on this planet, and we're going quickly about ruining the rest. Without soil, there's no food. Without food, there's no stability. And food is a powerful tool that keeps us in a stable environment around the world. As soon as you take food away from people, they get very, very upset very, very quickly. So food is a major factor in our security. And we need to diversify our crops and reduce our dependency on just the 3 main staples: corn, wheat, rice. If it's just those staples that we use, then we are going in for a hell of a lot of trouble. We grow too much wheat. We grow too much rice. There are too many monocultures. We need more fruit. We need more vegetables. We need more whole grains, and we need to grow it locally. Wherever we are, we need to be growing it locally. The location of your food system allows you to be more secure. So resilience is a factor. Now, I know I'm talking to you from a chef's perspective, and we're talking about food resilience and security and global change. But you see, this is where food systems have led me. From chopping an onion all the way through to understand the security issues of food systems is what I've been able to learn in 40 years. One of the other factors is you wouldn't think a chef would be talking about reducing synthetic fertilizers. But you see, if you're putting too much of that on the soil, you're killing the microbiodiversity, which actually is killing your stomach and your health. So we've got to reduce oil-based fertilizers. There's a huge vulnerability with using these oil-based fertilizers. Um, Phosphorus scarcity. We need to be reducing the phosphorus use, and we need better nutrient efficiency and biofertilizers. Biofertilizers and nutrient efficiency are major factors in our health. So we need to be building those in. We then need to be protecting animal health. Because these changing weather patterns and the way that the climate is increasing in temperature is bringing new pests and diseases. And that is where we're having to use quite a lot of antifungals, pesticides, all of which make it to, I mean, I can't tell you, I mean, you're probably experiencing it in Finland now. Before you even sit down to a meal nowadays, people are saying, what are you allergic to? What can't you eat? What are the things that are going to make you sick? Is there something that's going to kill you? There's no coincidence in the way that we are lifting our food systems away from nature and turning them into monocrops, mass produced. We need to have much more resilience, both from the planet and our bodies. So we also need to look at research. We need to look at innovation and interdisciplinary collaboration. Food systems go across science. They go across culture, psychology. They go across economics. They go across the climate and technology. And they require all of us to work together to look at the future. It can't be left in the hands of the few. It has to be used and influenced by the many. And quite a lot of the time, the many are the people who are consuming. So we need to be able to be voting with our feet, voting with our wallets, and saying, no, 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 I want to eat something more wholesome. I want more whole foods. I'm going to make decisions on having better, resilient food systems in the area that I live and work. So we need to connect with consumers, and that's what I've been finding out. And the best way to talk about resilience and sustainability is to tell the truth. I've been spending 20 years making sustainable food systems human. How do I understand it? I don't know what to do. I don't know how to shop. I don't know how to cook. I don't know where to go. Keeping it simple is the biggest factor. And I hope in the talk that I'm giving today is that the simplicity is a major factor in how we communicate to people who, for many years now, don't really understand the food systems that are around them. What's fabulous about food is it's emotional. You are who you are through the food that you eat. I am who I am through the food that I cook. And people get emotional about who they are and where they're from. If you're from Morocco or from Algeria, or you're from Mexico, or you're from Scandinavia, you identify with your culture through the food that you eat. Your food is in your memories. It's in your culture. It's your identity. And it also comforts you. It makes you feel who you are. It's not dissimilar to art, music, dance, all of the fundamental factors that make us human. Food is at the core of all of it. And so the way that we use food, the way that we buy food, the way that we grow food, doing it positively and with resilient backbone will actually make it easy to be sustainable and happy and healthy. We just can't let our food systems be controlled by people who just want to make money from our food systems. If you want to change the way people eat, just make sure you don't scare them. You have to empower people to make smart decisions. Quite a lot of the time, you can take the responsibility away from them. You can demystify what sustainability means. We need to explain a little more bit about resilience, being able to withstand the shocks to our soil, to our water, to our air. And those shocks are becoming more and more prevalent. Huge amounts of water falling, huge amounts of sunshine without any water. Just in the UK alone, we're not able to farm in the same way. So we have to be much more resilient. So we have to understand that the good food should not be a luxury. You can see people going in to eat whole foods and Planet Organic and all these sorts of things, and suddenly food becomes a luxury and unattainable by so many people that actually food becomes uh, unattainable in the concept of I can't afford that, therefore I can't afford health. So therefore I'll turn to cheap, sugary, fizzy, heavily saturated in fat foods, ultra processed. All of these factors are driving the health systems in the United Kingdom up to the wall. 7 out of 8 people who go onto the operating table in the hospitals in the UK is basically food-related illnesses. It's not just, sort of nature-related. This is food-related, obesity, diabetes, and just there are so many factors about our food system that if we get it right, we'll both heal ourselves and the planet. Good food, you have to remember, is a human right. We have to be able to provide through our food systems healthy, nutritious, sustainable, and delicious food at low cost. Why do we have to make healthy food unattainable? And good food is a mechanism of positive change. If we can bring good food to communities and environments where people, through the school systems, through their working systems, and through the passing on of knowledge, begin to understand that if we can control our food systems in a positive way, we'll be able to heal the planet at the same time. So, look, I've got a lot to talk about, but I wanted to make sure that this was a succinct and very clear conversation. I want to leave you with 3 messages. The future leaders of food. All of us are future leaders because all of us make decisions on how we buy and eat and discard our food. So the biggest lesson that I learned a few years ago was from David Beasley, who was the executive director for the World Food Programme. And he talked to me about food as power, food as soft power. There's hard power, which is guns and tanks and bullets and all of the mechanisms of war. But food is also used as a mechanism for war. And as part of the World Food Programme team, we won the Nobel Peace Prize 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, for the work that we did around recognizing that food enables peaceful environments, but also to recognize that peace has to be attained before food can be delivered at the front line where people really need it. So the power of food to shape culture, to shape health, to shape politics, and to shape the planet is underestimated, and I think a lot of people don't understand it. We also need to make sure that food isn't used as a weapon of war, because food is something that's used that if you don't have food on your plate and you're hungry, then you'll do many things to get that food. And so food is a soft power, which is used around the world in a very negative way. So understanding that food is power, and we have to understand the meaning and the influence of food in the environment and the community that we live in. So we need to use food to regenerate the natural world. So agroforestry, plant proteins, eat less but better meat, and choose quality over quantity and positivity over price. And one of the factors when it comes to the businesses that I run is I'm redefining the new key performance indicators for business, the new KPIs. You need to be rewarded at work for your sustainability work, for your waste reduction, for your low impact menus, for your energy efficiency, for your co-worker and customer satisfaction, your supplier relationships, for your nutrition and health. And when you combine economic and ecological excellence, you don't just run a business, you change the world. So focusing on the next steps for food systems and understanding the Sustainable Development Goals that were created by the United Nations in 2015, we are now moving quickly towards 2030, which was the end goal of the Sustainable Development Goals. So we've got three, 4 years left before we can actually deliver the Sustainable Development Goals. And at the moment, and it just so happens that I'm working with the Sky Group, which is a huge media company with hundreds of thousands of influential people. I'm feeding them every single day with hundreds of chefs across thousands of plates of food. And in the work that I do, I look to build a food system that connects to the local areas of food around me. Today, I'm in northern Scotland, in the Firth of Forth. Tomorrow, I'll be in Newcastle. And the next day, I'll be in Cardiff and then back into London. And so everywhere that I go, I build resilience and sustainability through the mechanism of a recipe using the local product. You can build a recipe, whether it's wheat or whether it's potatoes, or whether it's vegetables, or whether it's meat or fish, but I'll take the same recipe but use the more localized ingredients, which allows me to control the nutrient density, allows me to control the price points, but also that I'm enabling the connection to agriculture for where people eat their food. And it's absolutely essential that we look from a global perspective, that wherever you are in the world, you look local and you look seasonal for the first initial factor of building out your recipes and building out your store cupboards and your fridges at home, because supporting local makes you more resilient. So the food system is fragile. But we need to look at the creativity. We need to be able to transform what has become quite a complex set of global trade systems to something that's much more resilient. So the world, it's in our hands. I'm very lucky in as much as I've lived the past 40 years in kitchens, and I've got another 30 to go probably. Excuse me, I'm not leaving the kitchens anytime soon. But I think the world is waiting for the revolution to come out of our food systems, and we have to lead the way as chefs. And everyone's a chef, remember. If you get to cook at home, you're a chef. Or you can call yourself a cook. Cook, chef, we're all cooking food, and we're all making decisions at the shop level and at the agricultural level about the food that we put on our plates. So I can't bang the drum enough. I can write many things. I can get on keynote speeches and I can talk to people about the change that food makes on the planet. It is absolutely imperative. I'll leave you with some lasting points. At the moment, I'm talking to the growers of Kent who are going to be growing me carling peas. Carling peas are a very nitrate fixing, delicious pea, very nutritious with protein in. But I'm not going to buy 5 kilos from them or 10 kilos from them. I'm going to go to the whole farm and say, I will take every one of your peas and I'll buy them over the next 5 years every time you grow them. So the farming system recognizes there's security in the fact they don't have to go to market with a market price. What they do is they say, this is how much it cost me to produce. I need to put a profit on top of it. And that chef is buying my product. So I am investing in the livelihood of the agricultural system around me. And I'm doing the same with meat. I'm saying, if I'm going to put meat on the menu, I want better quality meat with better quality animals grown specifically for me. So I'm actually leaning into the agricultural sector and crop planning, herd planning, rather than going to the marketplace and looking for the lowest price so I can make a bigger profit. Because profit and the planet, you have to make sure that they're not completely driven to the lowest cost, because if you do that, you're generating cheap food, and there's no such thing as cheap food. The pressure is felt somewhere. If you're going to create a £1 burger or a £1 meal, then it could be that 3 or 4 of those pounds are actually paid for by nature, because you're having to put phosphates, nitrates, you're having to put growth hormones into animals in order to produce it more cheaply. The price is felt somewhere, and that's a big factor. So from a keynote, I just wanted to kind of dial in and say, thank you so much for the positivity and the work that everyone is doing. Nana, it looks like some amazing work has gone on. It's always really great to connect to Finland and across Europe. Look, I consider myself European, and it's great to be on this call. If there are any questions that you'd like to ask me, I'm very open for them. Of course. So much of the future is held in the hands of the future people who are at the stoves, who are at the purchasing powers places, in an environment where So much of what food is a regurgitation of what you've been taught, meaning that you copy, you don't think through the process other than this was taught to me, therefore this is correct. What I think we need to do is to build into our educational system a new way of looking at our food systems that has to be focused on working with the agricultural sector, working with the environment that is around you to make delicious food. Um, so much of food systems rely on very old, antiquated French beans, potatoes, red meat, expensive fish, environments where, quite a lot of universities and colleges that teach culinary, not fully embedded in the capacity for these learners, the students who are coming in, to not just work from a textbook. I think what we need to be doing is having these people understand that the environment that they're in and the way they buy food and then sell food to their customers is just a conduit. So the chef who's taking the product is a conduit from the person who has grown the product to the person who's going to be eating the product. And so the responsibility that you have is the connection between the two. And so you have to understand that the future of food is a way of producing it in a fresh, clean, local, and sustainable and resilient way in its simplest form to keep nutrition and sustainability at the height of the experience will allow the consumer to recognize that the product is coming from the farm. It's coming from the region. It's coming from the area in which they live as a community. And if that's the case, then you're not only driving financial security into the community you're in, but you're also making it fresher and more delicious. So I think as educators, we need to be driving into the future generation that in order for us to achieve a resilient food system that surrounds us, we cannot be reliant on the old antiquated way of buying and selling food. We have to look at the way that farmers are supported. We have to look at the local distribution, the logistics of moving food, and the importance that food can't be moved thousands of miles in refrigerated trucks and then stored in refrigeration before it's refrigerated and cooked and then refrigerated. And I mean, it's just, it won't make any sense, but energy becomes a major factor in the way people consume food. So build shorter supply chains, build into seasonality, build into locality. And once you begin to do that, you'll get more invention from the young learners because they'll be thinking, oh, this is what I could do with that local buckwheat. This is what I could do with that local fruit. This is what I could do with that local fish. And so I think just making sure that we're innovating and influencing the future trends and the future systems of food to the people that are learning and not just regurgitating from textbooks that can sometimes be 20 or 30 years old, because those systems do not work anymore. I have to be very careful because time is a big factor. And we do have the solution in our food systems because in the calculations that I'm looking at, I think that the food systems of the planet are able to provide 1/3 of the solution to the healing of the environment around us. Soil is a human carbon sink, is a huge carbon sink. And if we're able to make sure that we retain our carbon in our soil, that we're able to retain our water, our fresh water in our soil and not let it run away to the sea, then we are able to make sure that we have more of a resilient nature than monocropping, mass production, turning our soils constantly, releasing the carbon, destroying the flora and fauna inside the soil, the biodiversity, and then letting our fresh water run to the sea. So water and soil are the two biggest factors as well as our air. So we have the knowledge. We just need to make sure that we have as many farmers and people who are producing our food supported to produce food that is going to be and provide systemic change for carbon sequestration and water sequestration. A longer root stock allows carbon to be sunk further into the ground and retained. Better soil health acts like a sponge to absorb water. Water and soil are the things that keep us alive. We have the knowledge and the ability to farm correctly. We need to support that system with the way that we buy our food. So we can make changes, but we have to make them quickly. Because if we keep going down the route of the next 10 or 20 years, same business, same as usual, then our food systems are going to get more and more less sustainable. And that will drive issues of food security. So in supporting our agricultural systems, we actually support security. And security is the big factor when it comes to peace and your community and your culture and the region you live in. So wherever you are and whatever you're doing, support your soil, support your seeds, support your water table, and make sure that you're buying food in a more positive agricultural and farmer friendly way. Well, I'm happy that I'm in some way able to influence, but please don't be despondent. I'm talking to you because these are systems and conversations that are being had certainly all over the United Kingdom and Europe, I know, and the United States. So this is not just a siloed person sitting in Scotland saying this is what we need to do. Is I am seeing this action, but I just need to see more of it. So the solutions are there, the knowledge is there. What we need to do is to wake the public awareness up to say, stop buying food in a way that empowers people to just make money from the commodity. Food is not a commodity. Food is a basic essential to life. And we have to realize that as human beings. We can't be controlled by the monocrops and the monopolies who just make money from us. We are the ones that have the power to change our food systems. You just need to know that.